They took one look at me and decided I didn't matter. A beat-up pickup, mud on the tires, a black guy in a faded hoodie stopping for gas in the wrong town at the wrong hour. In their minds, the story was already written. I was going to be quiet, nervous, easy, another name they'd forget by morning. What they didn't know, what they couldn't see, was that I'd been underestimated my whole life and I'd learned how to survive inside that blind spot. Yeah, that mattered. It was close to midnight in a rural county most people only pass through. The kind of place where the road stretches forever and the air sticks to your skin like wet cotton. I'd pulled into a rundown gas station, lights flickering, bugs slamming into the glass, the kind of place that feels forgotten by time. I remember thinking I'd be in and out in 5 minutes. Fuel a bottle of water back on the road. Simple. But nothing about that night was simple. I'd barely gotten the pump started when I felt it. That pressure on the back of your neck that tells you someone's watching. Tires crunched behind me. A patrol SUV rolled in slow and deliberate, blocking my exit like it was choreographed. Doors opened. 2 deputies stepped out. One was young, stiff hand hovering near his gun like he'd practiced in a mirror. The other was older, heavier, moving with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. He smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "Evenin'," the younger one said, dragging the word out. "Long drive." "Yeah," I said, "just getting gas." They didn't like how calm I was. I could see it in their eyes. Calm didn't fit the version of me they'd already decided on. The older deputy circled my truck, tapping a flashlight against the body like he was inspecting cattle. "You know why we stopped?" he asked. I shrugged. I wasn't aware I was stopped. He grinned wider. "Tail lights out." It wasn't. I knew it wasn't. I checked it earlier that night. But I also knew arguing facts with men like this was like shouting into the wind. They weren't here for a broken light. They were here because I looked like someone who wouldn't fight back. Things escalated fast. Too fast. Questions turned into accusations. Accusations turned into commands. Hands where I can see them. Step away from the vehicle. The younger deputy started patting me down, rough, invasive, lingering too long like he was hoping to feel something he could justify later. I felt that familiar heat rise in my chest. Anger, humiliation, that old instinct to snap. But I swallowed it. I'd learned a long time ago that reacting is what they expect, and what they expect is what they control. The older deputy leaned in close, his breath sour. "You nervous?" he asked. "You look nervous." "I'm tired," I said. "Been driving all day." He laughed. "That's so, because nervous people usually got something to hide." That's when I realized this wasn't just harassment. This was a setup. They wanted me rattled. They wanted consent. They wanted leverage. And when I calmly said I don't consent to any searches, the mood changed. The smile vanished. The voice hardened. The authority turned sharp. Next thing I knew, they were in my truck. No warrant, no reason. Just power. I stood there under the buzzing lights, hands clenched, listening to doors slam, things being tossed around. And then I heard it. Sarge, the younger one, called out, "You gotta see this." My stomach dropped. The older deputy came out holding a small wrapped package like it was treasure. "Well, look at that," he said. "Mind explaining this?" I stared at it. I knew with absolute certainty that whatever was in his hand had not been in my truck 10 minutes earlier. This wasn't a mistake. This was fabrication. My heart pounded not with fear, but with a cold clarity. They weren't just trying to scare me anymore. They were trying to erase me. "That's not mine," I said. The older deputy slammed me against the truck so hard my vision sparked. "You don't talk unless I say you talk," he snarled. "You understand?" In that moment, something shifted inside me. The anger burned off, leaving something steadier, sharper. I'd spent years being talked down to brushed aside, treated like less than. But I also knew something they didn't, and it was time to stop playing the role they'd cast me in. I took a breath. "You might want to slow down," I said quietly. They laughed. Actually laughed. The younger one shook his head. "Man, you really don't know where you are." I looked at him. "Oh, I know exactly where I am." I told them about the cameras, about the audio, about the fact that everything they were doing was being recorded and transmitted. At first, they thought I was bluffing, but then they checked. found the lens, saw the light, and the color drained from their faces like someone pulled a plug. The older deputy's confidence cracked. Not shattered, cracked. He raised his weapon hands shaking now, eyes darting. "You're lying," he said. "You're just some guy." I straightened up, wiped the blood from my lip. "You should put the gun down," I said, "because this doesn't end the way you think it does." For a second, I truly thought he was going to pull the trigger. Time slowed. The gas station faded. All I could hear was my own breathing steady controlled. I'd accepted a long time ago that standing up for yourself sometimes comes with a cost. But I wasn't going to beg. And then the night exploded. Helicopter rotors thundered overhead. Floodlights turned darkness into daylight. Vehicles screamed in from both ends of the lot, doors flying open, voices shouting commands that cut through the chaos like steel. Federal agents poured in precise, overwhelming, undeniable. The deputies froze. Power drained out of them in an instant. Guns hit the ground. Knees hit the concrete. I sat there on the asphalt shaking now that the adrenaline was crashing, watching men who had ruled this stretch of road for years suddenly look very small, very human, very accountable. Later, as medics checked my throat and agents cuffed the deputies, one of the younger officers wouldn't stop crying. The older one wouldn't look at me. I didn't feel triumph. I felt relief, and a deep, bone-level sadness that it had ever come to this. The fallout was fast and loud. Video went public. Investigations cracked open like rotten wood. Names fell. Badges were stripped. People who'd been hurt silenced, pushed aside for years, finally had proof that it wasn't all in their heads, that they weren't crazy, that what happened to them mattered. Me, I went home, took a few days off, let the bruises fade, let my voice come back. And one evening, I drove that same road again. The gas station was brighter now. New lights, families, truckers laughing. A young deputy nodded at me respectfully as he walked inside for a drink. No fear, no tension. Just a road being a road. I stood there for a minute, breathing it in, thinking about how close it all came to ending differently. About how easily power can rot when no one pushes back. About how often people like me are told to keep our heads down, not make trouble, accept things as they are. But here's the thing. Silence is exactly what allows this kind of abuse to survive. Being underestimated isn't always a weakness. Sometimes it's cover. Sometimes it's the space you need to gather yourself, wait, and choose the right moment to stand up. So let me ask you this. When the system fails, and justice only shows up because someone refuses to stay quiet, is that justice, or is it luck? Was what happened to those deputies accountability, or did things go too far, and how many stories like this never get a spotlight at all? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think.